Today, we're going to beat a dead horse. Today we're going to talk about a topic we have discussed previously, but I feel like another video is necessary. We're going to talk about custodian of the data. And the reason why we're talking about is a lot of times clients ask to figure out custodian of the data from the data itself. And today, we're going to talk about why that is not possible. So this is an email that I see over and over is we get a piece of data, usually a PST file, and someone says, I don't know who the custodian is, but can you look at the metadata and apply the correct custodian for the appropriate email messages? Can you please do that? And the answer to that always is no, that is not something we can do. And the reason for that is because custodian of the data is a person who was in the possession of the data at time of collection. It is not the person who created a document or wrote an email. So one of the examples I talked about before is, let's say I go to my mailbox and I take a bunch of emails and I export them out to PST, put them on a thumb drive and give it to my coworker. My coworker copies it to their desktop. Now there is a discovery process and my coworker's data gets collected. Well, custodian for that PST on his desktop is going to be him, not me. Even though these my emails, I wrote them, I created them, I received them, I did whatever. I am not custodian of that data. My coworker is. I gave it to him, and his data, and this data was discovered on his computer at the time of collection. So therefore, he is the custodian of my messages. Now, since we've beaten this issue to death, let's do another analogy while sitting on this upside-down bench. So let's say there is a car accident, right? There are multiple cars crashed and police comes over. But by this time, everyone out of the cars, they're cursing at each other, they're arguing, and the police goes, whose car is this and whose car is that? They want to know the custodian of a particular vehicle so they could fill out the police report. Now, they don't care who actually owns the car, right? You're the driver, you are in the possession of that car. You're the custodian of that car. Now, that car may belong to your friend, or maybe you leased it and it belongs to a bank. It doesn't matter. For the purpose of an accident, for filling out the paperwork, the custodian of the car is a person who was in possession of it. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out in e-discovery. We want to know who was in possession of the data at time of collection. There is one more type of data that people really want to assign custodian information to, but they shouldn't, and that is shared data. So you have data on like a file server where everyone just stores their files, and maybe they have their name folders or not, but that is a shared folder where multiple people save files. There is no custodian information there. What you could do is create custodian called shared data or shared folder, and that's going to be your custodian. There is no individual person that has a possession of it. Same thing with chat data. Again, a lot of people want to assign custodian to chat data where it's, for example, a channel. Well, it's kind of wrong to assign a person's name because they don't hold on to the data. This data just exists on the server out there somewhere. It is shared data, just like we talked about shared files on the server. It doesn't belong to a person, or that custodian doesn't have possession of it. This data just exists on the server. And therefore, the best way to describe custodian of the data is just call it, Teams and a channel name or something like that. That would be probably the best way to describe the source of the data or where it came from, as opposed to trying to assign a person's name because we did a search for that person's name and then save it with their name. But there might be another search of the same data when we search for a different person's name, right? So now you have different pieces of data, and it's the same data, but it's been assigned as multiple custodians. That doesn't really make sense. So in my opinion, it makes sense to just use either channel name or just call it shared Teams data or shared Slack data or something like that, or Slack channels data, and that would be the custodian name. So I'm sure you guys, these are all just my opinions. I'm not an attorney and you shouldn't take any legal advice from me. But that's how I would handle custodial information during collection. Let me know your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another video.